So one of the things that we had spent some time with the Ministry of Finance officials is looking at various measures that we could use to close that revenue gap, that funding gap, and the prime one being the increase in the ABSD by 2%. We are still thinking that it is appropriate, and the Ministry of Finance officials have been asked to look at a phased implementation of these measures, and I guess more will come over the next 2 weeks while they look at phasing and as they feed back into the process where the Prime Minister will make the full budget presentation on the 15th of December. With regard to all of that, we did spend a good portion of the time looking at, because we know that this is a concern that the public has, looking at the whole idea of the potential impact on inflation. We had a member of the, I can't remember her function, but it will come back to me momentarily. But we looked at the obligations that we had under the CSME with respect to the common external tariffs and what we had to do. We do anticipate that there will be little to no impact on the cost of basic food items, as indicated by the Prime Minister in the Q&A session at Parliament earlier this week. He did indicate that the government intended to protect the poor and vulnerable, and that all of those food items that have been zero rated, and you will recall that these food items were expanded during COVID when there was a constriction in government's ability to meet certain obligations. We sought to protect the lowest common denominator. You would recall as well that we had certain provisions in place when there were increases in the cost of fuel, that we cushioned the impact of that and allowed for a voucher system to ensure that the persons who were providing public transportation didn't have any costs that they could pass on to the consumers. And we intend to do the very same thing here with respect to the costs of basic food items and medicines and those items in the basket that will affect the lowest common person. So the idea is that this 2% will be applied to other consumer goods. There are a number of other measures that have been discussed and agreed by the Cabinet, and the Ministry of Finance officials are doing some further work. One important upshot of all of this is that the Ministry of Finance, under the stewardship, under the guidance of the Financial Secretary, she, along with other finance officials and technicians, would lead some public discussion, and education as to the implication of the new tax measures and the new collection measures that the government intends to implement.